Everyone loves a good spy story. James Bond, Jason Bourne, the sleek gadgets, the clever disguises, the high-stakes missions in exotic locations. Ancient Greece had spies too. No gadgets, no luxury hotels, no extraction teams waiting if things went wrong. Just you, alone, in enemy territory with one job. Get the information and get out alive. And if you got caught, nobody was coming to save you. Your city would deny you existed. Your family would never know what happened to you. You'd just disappear, and life would go on without you. Welcome to the secret life of an ancient Greek spy, and I promise you, it was nothing like the movies. Nobody posted a job listing for this. You didn't apply, go through interviews, and get handed a contract. Greek spies, called kataskopos, which literally translates to one who watches from above, were usually soldiers, merchants, or travelers who already had legitimate reasons to move between cities and regions. You had cover built into your existing life, and that's what made you valuable. Maybe you were a merchant who regularly traded between Athens and Sparta. You traveled those roads constantly. You knew the towns, the people, the routes. Nobody questioned why you were there because you were always there. Your presence was unremarkable, ordinary, invisible in plain sight. Or maybe you were a soldier with language skills and the ability to pass as someone from a different region. Greek city-states had distinct dialects, customs, and clothing styles. If you could convincingly adopt another city's dialect and mannerisms, you could walk into an enemy city and be accepted as a local. A general or political leader would approach you privately, not officially, not with any documentation or formal agreement, verbally, a conversation that could be denied later. They'd explain what information was needed, what you'd be paid if you succeeded, and what would happen if you were caught. The answer to that last part was always the same. You were on your own. No official support, no backup, no acknowledgement that you were acting on anyone's behalf. If the enemy caught you and demanded to know who sent you, your city would shrug and call you a criminal acting alone. And here's the part that would make most people walk away immediately. The pay wasn't even that good. Greek spies weren't lavishly compensated. You might receive some silver, some land, some social favor, but nothing close to what the risk justified. So why did people do it? Well, some were motivated by patriotism, some were motivated by adventure. Some were desperate for money and had no better options. And some were coerced because someone powerful had leverage over them. Whatever brought you to this life, once you were in, there was no clean way out. You knew too much. You'd met the people who hired you. You were useful as long as you were alive and cooperating, and dangerous the moment you weren't. Now, you're probably wondering what the actual job looked like day to day. And this is where it gets really interesting, because Greek spying wasn't high-tech or dramatic, it was something much more uncomfortable. Your primary tool wasn't a weapon or a gadget, it was your ability to blend in and listen. You'd travel to the target city under your cover identity, merchant, pilgrim, athlete traveling to a competition, whatever story fits your circumstances best. You'd establish yourself in the city, find accommodation, start doing whatever your cover required. And then you'd just exist there, for weeks, sometimes months. You'd visit the agora, the public marketplace where Greeks gathered to trade and talk. You'd drink at taverns where soldiers and officials relaxed after work. You'd attend public assemblies where political decisions were debated openly. You'd make friends, build relationships, become a familiar face. Greeks were surprisingly open about military and political matters in public. Democratic Athens debated military strategy in public assemblies attended by thousands. Soldiers talked about troop movements in taverns. Officials discussed political alliances in marketplaces. Your job was to be present for these conversations without drawing attention, to listen without appearing to listen, to remember without appearing to record anything. Memory was everything. You couldn't walk around taking notes. Written documents could be found and would immediately expose you. Everything you gathered had to live in your head until you could safely get it out. Some spies developed elaborate memory techniques, associating information with physical locations they'd mentally walk through later to retrieve details. Memorizing troop numbers as patterns rather than figures, creating mental stories that encoded military information. The cognitive load was enormous. You're maintaining a false identity, navigating unfamiliar social dynamics, gathering information, storing it all mentally, and constantly monitoring for any sign that someone suspects you. Every conversation requires you to be simultaneously present and performing. And here's what made it genuinely dangerous. Greek communities were tight. Everyone knew everyone. Strangers were noticed. Foreigners were watched. If your story had inconsistencies, people talked about it. If you asked too many questions, people noticed. The line between gathering intelligence naturally and arousing suspicion was incredibly thin. Cross it, and everything collapsed instantly. But the information gathering was only half the job. Getting the information home was its own nightmare, and this is where ancient Greek spying gets genuinely creative. You've spent 2 months in Sparta. You know their troop numbers, their planned military movements, their alliance negotiations with neighboring cities. You have everything Athens needs. Now, how do you get it home without being searched, questioned, or killed on the road? Written messages were the obvious solution and the obvious risk. If you were stopped and searched, a written message was a death sentence. So Greek spies developed creative methods for concealing written information. Some used steganography, hiding messages in plain sight. A merchant's wax tablet used for ordinary business notes might have a secret message scratched into the wood underneath the wax. You'd see the normal business notes on top. The secret message was invisible unless you melted the wax away. Some messages were written on cloth or thin sheets of lead that could be rolled tightly and hidden inside hollow walking sticks, sewn into clothing, or concealed in the soles of sandals. One famous method involved shaving a messenger's head, tattooing the message on their scalp, waiting for their hair to grow back, and then sending them on their way. The recipient would shave the messenger's head to reveal the message. Slow, but essentially undetectable unless someone specifically knew to look. Other information was transmitted through coded signals, arrangements of objects in a merchant's stall, specific phrases inserted into ordinary conversation, torches arranged in patterns visible from a distance. The sophistication varied enormously, depending on the resources available and the urgency of the mission. Sometimes you just had to memorize everything and get home as fast as possible. The journey home was its own danger. Roads between Greek city-states weren't safe. Bandits operated freely. Enemy patrols monitored major routes during wartime. You might have to take indirect routes, traveling through multiple cities to obscure your origin and destination. And when you finally got home, when you'd made it back with the information intact, there was no welcome ceremony, no public recognition, no official acknowledgement of what you'd done. You met privately with whoever had hired you, you delivered your information, you received your payment, and that was it. Your mission was secret. It stayed secret. You couldn't talk about it, you couldn't tell your family what you'd been doing for the past 2 months, you couldn't explain where you'd been or why. You just had to absorb the experience silently and wait for the next approach. Which raises a question that gets darker the more you think about it. What happened when something went wrong? Getting caught as a spy in ancient Greece was not a legal matter. There were no trials, no rights, no due process. If you were suspected, you were seized immediately. Whatever authority controlled that city would have you taken and questioned, and Greek interrogation had one primary tool: torture. They'd start with relatively minor methods and escalate until you talked or until you died from the process. Either outcome was acceptable to them. If you talked, they had information. If you died without talking, at least you weren't a problem anymore. If you had to make an impossible decision during this process, if you gave up your handlers, your city, your contacts, you might survive the interrogation, but you'd have betrayed everything and everyone you were working for. The information you revealed might get other people killed. It might compromise military operations. It might result in your own execution when you eventually got home. If you stayed silent, you'd be tortured until you broke or until you died. Either way, the outcome was terrible. Some spies had arrangements with their handlers about what to do if caught. Certain information could be sacrificed to protect more critical secrets. Certain contacts could be given up because they were already compromised anyway. It was a horrible calculus, deciding in advance what you were willing to reveal under torture. Others made a different arrangement with themselves. They'd accept death before revealing anything. Whether they could actually hold to that when the reality of torture was happening is another question entirely. Greek history records several cases of captured spies. Some broke immediately. Some held out remarkably long. Some died without saying anything useful. All of them were forgotten quickly. Their cities moved on. Their families were left with no explanation of what had happened. That was the deal you made when you became a kataskopo. Your city would use you completely and acknowledge you never. Here's what ancient Greek spying actually was, stripped of any glamour. It was lonely, terrifying, cognitively exhausting work performed by people who had no protection, no backup, and no recognition. You lived a lie for months at a time. You built relationships under false pretenses with people who would want you dead if they knew the truth. You carried information in your head that could get you tortured and killed if anyone found out. You came home to silence, no acknowledgement, no gratitude expressed publicly, no record of your service, just private payment, and the understanding that you'd do it again when asked. The spy stories we romanticize involve heroes who were known, celebrated, whose names became famous for their cleverness and courage. Ancient Greek spies were the opposite. The best ones were never known at all. Success meant total anonymity. The moment your name became associated with spying, your career was over and your life was in danger. You were most valuable when you were most invisible. And invisibility meant erasure. No legacy, no recognition, no place in history. Ancient Greece gave us democracy, philosophy, theater, and mathematics. It also gave us a shadow world of men and women who gathered the intelligence that kept their cities alive, whose names were never recorded, whose sacrifices were never acknowledged, and whose stories were never told. Because the best spy stories never get told at all. Would you have survived as an ancient Greek spy?